B-Leaguers, how you going? It's your boy Dan at the B-League Says, coming at you with a divisional round playoff show. Everybody, welcome in. Thank you for tuning in last week with the divisional or the wild card round. If it were the wild card round, which is kind of stupid considering what 3 or 4 teams had 12 or 13 wins amongst themselves. Not much of a wild card in that regard, but fair enough. I think the only surprise there, everyone I would say, was Washington, except they were a 12-round team on the road. As it was. I mean, maybe you feel a bit bad for Minnesota because they were probably the second best team in the NFC and they got bounced by the Rams. But as we know, the Rams, when it comes to playoff time, they are a playoff team better than most as they are. Either way, thank you for joining me this Saturday morning. We are here looking forward to 4 really nice games this week for the playoff. I think they all look kind of exciting. I think the other thing we're looking at in terms of problems might be weather in that regard, but we have seen before, if you look at, was it week 15 or week 16 during your fantasy football playoffs, there was some really shocking weather. There was also some pretty big scores. Thank you to the Giants and Colts. As always, you can find us on Twitter at GoingFor2 Live. Find Jeff Lambert 77 over there. You can check out all his accounts, and that's got all information pertinent to this. And we can also go to the Discord that we have for GoingFor2 Live. It is free. It's a fantastic place to be, to ask your questions, get trade advice, get draft advice, get betting information. You can go and get your best ball information. Hi, it's Dan. That's me. I'll see you in the off season. You can also get all your waiver wire stuff mid-season, start and sits questions in. We have an arrangement of shows that you can go look for, including the DFS show that pumps every Friday night. There's some really good bets. Everybody get on Elevate Zakaz. Everyone's going to get on DeArmby Brown. Thanks for coming. And we can go from there. As always, YouTube, like and subscribe, hit the alerts. You know what to do in that. We've been doing this for about 6 years now. I shouldn't have to keep repeating myself, but if you are new to the show, you know what to do. Go and find us over there. As I said before, we're looking at 4 games for the divisional round. They all look fantastic on paper, don't they? Texans at Chiefs. That could be anything if the Texans play like they did in the second half. If they play like they did in the first half, I think we're in trouble. Commanders at Detroit, the only dome game that we have. And as if we could ask for anything more, we're looking at 2 really exciting, fast-paced teams. We get the return of David Montgomery as well. In a dome, this game could blow up. Ravens at Bills. I know this looks like a game that doesn't have points in it. And, it could be anything on the road in Buffalo with the weather up there. I'm in New York. I'm not in Buffalo. I'm down at New Manhattan, but it is freezing down here at the moment. I'm talking like minus, you guys don't know Celsius. It's like minus 10 degrees out here in Celsius. It's like 18 degrees Fahrenheit. It is friggin' ridiculous. And we're not even up that far north, and we're not near the snow. It is wild down here. It's freezing. I don't want to go outside. It's that cold. And we're looking at Rams, Eagles. They're saying snow. Everyone's saying Matthew Stafford, snow. Oh, it's the cold. The guy played in the NFC North for like 12 years. You tell me he doesn't know what it's like to play outside in Chicago at Soldier Field in December? Or Green Bay? Like, come on, stop it. This guy knows how to handle the cold and play and maneuver around in the cold. He knows very well. So you're looking at teams, maybe they don't know how they're going to go with this sort of weather. Like, you tell me Baltimore doesn't know how to play in the cold? Like, stop it. This is kind of wild. These teams are all ready and adapt to go. And, to be fair, the only team that caught a break out of this is probably Washington, because very inexperienced playoff team, and they get to play inside a dome. And, if they happen to win, they're a 50-50 shot of playing in a dome versus the Rams next week anyway. So, it's kind of interesting to see how that could break well for them, as it would be. We're going to talk about our props via underdogfantasy.com. Promo code GF2 for 100% match deposit, up to 250 big ones, as it would be. I have absolutely gone with a cardinal sin. I'm going to preface this. I have absolutely done something I should not have done this week, and I know you guys are going to, whoever's been listening every week, and thank you for those who have tuned in. We've got a couple of weeks to go. We've got obviously the conference championships next week and the Super Bowl the week after. I'll do a bit of a show for that too. I have gone for something that I've never done, or I don't do, or I refuse to do. I might have done once or twice before, but I don't do this. I have hit the overs on everything. All our props we're going higher than. I never do this because you know how I feel like. I've explained myself way too much throughout the year, but I'll do it one more time just in case there is someone you're listening or watching or tuning in. We always like to believe that human performance, we can do better than we are. We're not. We're humans. We suck. All right. So 9 times out of 10, we fail. That's just what we do. So normally betting on lowers is generally a safer bet, but we bet overs because we want to see some action. We want to be a part of the game. We want to see people do that. We got 4 games. I figured I'd pick two of the bets that I feel that could go over in those games. I wanted to see how that would go and how that would look. I'm not telling you to bet on the overs on all these. I'm telling you what I like for the overs in these. And I've got on these myself. So if I lose money, tough titties for this guy. If not, all good. We can kick on. But that's what we're doing. We're going to look at that first game. Now, I've also done something that I shouldn't have done because I've been waiting for this guy's props to drop all week. He had a bit of a calf injury. We're going to look at the Texans at the Chiefs. I should have mentioned that, the 4:30 game today. Now, I saw something crazy over on X this week. What did they say? They said that the Chiefs, when they play in this game, in 10 games, when they play at 4:30, they've lost 2 out of 2, but when they play at 8:30, they've won 8 out of 8. This is a 4:30 game. So if things are going to get weird, we're going to come and circle back to this and act like it never happened. But I've been waiting for this guy's props to drop all week. He had a calf injury. Looks like he's back. It looks like he's suiting up. So in the next couple of hours, I'm going to be waiting for this to drop, and we're going to go easy on half a sack. I'm looking at Chris Jones here this week. I want to hit him on over half a sack. If it also happens to be, I don't mind Mike Danner. He has that explosive play in him as well. We're looking at a D-line prop. I know that sounds stupid. Hey, let's open up a prop betting show talking about D-line guys for the Chiefs. Like, come on. But this is where we are. But I do like Chris Jones this week, higher than half a sack. I do like Xavier Worthy, higher than 4.5 receptions. I'm going to get to that in a minute as well. But let's start with Worthy first. A bit of a patchy season for the rookie. He started hot, clattered off pretty hard. But over the past 4 to 6 weeks, he stepped up. Unlike most rookie receivers have for the Chiefs, this draft is figuring out, for the Chiefs draft, it's figuring out a solid player for Mahomes. He's had that weird season where halfway. Thank you, Only Zeus. How you going? Nice. Thanks for tuning in. I can't read that right now, or if I did, I shouldn't have. But I'll have a look at that at the end. Thank you, my friend. We're going to talk about Xavier Worthy again. You talk about rookie receivers that Mahomes has had. You're looking at Mecole Hardman, the other guy that they had, the other kid that was fast. I forget what his name is. Was Sky Moore. That's the other one. They haven't really panned out. Xavier Worthy kind of has. And you look at what his season was. He was meant to start with Pacheco and Brown next to him. They get injured week 1, week 2. A lot of heapers just dumped on this guy. They bring Kareem Hunt, trade for DeAndre Hopkins. It's been a bit of a revolving, nothing consistent for him to sink his teeth into. You look at like Brian Thomas, it was basically him from week 1, week 2. After Christian Kirk went down, Ingram being injured all year, or pretty much all year from halfway through. But either way, so you look at what he's done. Worthy over the last, 5 more receptions going back to Las Vegas in week 13. He's been hitting over this marker pretty consistently, and that's with DeAndre Hopkins next to him. Hollywood Brown came back, week 18, I think it was, or he's ready to go. He's playing again. So it's like one of those things. This isn't even with Rashee Rice either. So he's had one of those seasons where you have to go, all right, well, it seems fair that his numbers have kicked up a notch. It's also come with Isaiah Pacheco's return from injury. So they've got the run game going. They've brought in DeAndre Hopkins. Brown comes back. Who is Houston going to put on this kid? He's too quick. It can't be Stingley. You'd have to think Stingley's going to go to Hopkins. You think that's the way it's going to go. If Brown's there, he might get the set. What is it, Lassiter? Lassiter's going to be on him? Some pitchers out. I know he's a safety, but he was playing somewhat in the nickel there. I can't imagine who's actually going to be sitting on Xavier Worthy with the speed that he has. I don't think they're going to want to waste Derek Stingley on Worthy for this matchup. I can't imagine it's going to happen. If that's the case, this kid could be free all day. 4.5 receptions being hitting this quota ever since week 13. I kind of like that for him this week. So 4.5 for Xavier Worthy, I'm a big fan of. I'm going to get to Chris Jones now because I feel like this is one of those props. I'm waiting for it to come in. And I want everybody who's listening to be in line with that because when this drops, I feel like this is a given. Texas can't give the Chiefs a first half start like they gave to the Chargers. What they did to the Chargers last week was criminal. What they did, that was ridiculous. That was one of the worst halves of football I've seen all year. And I'm a Giants fan. I've seen some shocking halves. I don't know what the Texans were last week. They were just flat out dog shit until the last 2 minutes and they somehow took the lead. How do you figure? In those foulings, Stroud, he's sacked 3 times. Twice by Khalil Mack, once by Joey Bosa. Getting home on Stroud. This is happening. Stroud has taken 24 more sacks this year than he had last year as a rookie, with 3 on game on average. I know the sacks haven't been there for Jones this year. I know it's been a bit of a patchy sort of season for him. He had a streak for 6-7 games where he didn't have one. Has 1 or 2, then he stops. I think health has been a big reason for that, but he seems like he's back for that. It's a good matchup for him. If he gets a chance, he's as good as any getting home. So I like Chris Jones getting over half a sack this week. Mike Danner as well. If those 2 guys come in, into this underdog. They're not releasing them. Imagine releasing the guys that want to hit sacks on CJ Stroud. Imagine wanting to juice those up. Can't do that. But if they do, try to get some action on Chris Jones this week. Let's look at pick number 2. I'm going back to the well on this guy because I'm stunned at how it worked out last week, obviously against the Bucks. They kind of shit the bed a bit, didn't they, last week? I'm going to go back to Frankie Louver. We're going to go higher than 6.5 combined tackles. Jaden Daniels, we're going to go over 9.5 rushing attempts. Daniels, look, he's running mad when McLaurin and Ertz don't have hops, right? When they can't get free, when they can't get away, he goes. And, he's been starting to work in some De'Ami Brown. He's been starting to work in a little bit of Olamide Zacchaeus over the last couple of weeks. Like Austin Eckler could play a big figure into that, so maybe he's got the dump off. That might be something that figures in negatively to Jaden Daniels in that regard. Look, but when he kind of gets contained a little bit, kind of just does tuck it and run, doesn't he? So Lions are pretty good at containing quarterbacks. On the edge, they're pretty good in that regard. And obviously, they've lost Aiden Hutchinson since week 1, week 2. So that's really effective. And their D-line has been hit. Aiden McNair, he's been hit. They've played a bunch of guys. Zad Smith comes in. He's been helping out as well in that regard. But I kind of feel like guys on the move, they have been exploited a little bit. They haven't played a lot of guys that are mobile. Like when you look at Josh Allen, he went 11 attempts for 62. Caleb Williams had 6 and 4 rushing attempts against him in 2 matchups. You get away for 35, 30, on average about 35 yards each time. And obviously, Anthony Richard had 10 for 61 on him. So against guys that want to grab the ball and go, they will let them do it. Like they'll get to that double-digit marker. And I feel like Jaden Daniels at 9.5, he's basically there in that regard. Those are the only 2 rushing mobile. I don't even want to call Caleb Williams a mobile quarterback in that regard, but he can be. But obviously, Allen and Richardson, they get a lot of touches, don't they? I think Kyler Murray might have been the only mobile quarterback they had, and that was like week 2, week 3. And they were still starting to figure themselves out. So, you talk about recently, it's really just Josh Allen, Anthony Richardson this year, and that's it. They've been hitting over that 10, 11 marker for rush attempts, so I don't mind that either. But Daniels, he's found ways to improv, stick and move. And I think that's why this is in play this week. He's hit this quota in 4 of the last 5 games, and I think that's important to know as well. So he's gone over 9.5 in 4 of his last 5, and he's done that quite comfortably. Bit of a stinker last week for Frankie Louvu in the prop department, but the ideal still stands. Like, I don't hate the reasons why that should have hit. Like, obviously, Bucky Irving, Rashad White. Those are guys that they feed, 20, 30 times a game combined. Like, they kind of go over on that. They're not really shy about it. But like Tampa, the Lions, they run outside at an alarming rate. And Louvu could figure in again this week in the same role. Look, they get David Montgomery back, who does go through the middle a bit. And obviously that helps Bobby Wagner a little bit more too. So Wagner, his props, I think it was like 8.5 when I saw it. I didn't like that. If it's come down a bit, maybe something to look at. The last year with Carolina, when Louvu was there, they did play Detroit. He figured for 7 combined. The Lions won't be mixing in Montgomery as much, I don't think. I just can't see it on his return from an MCL injury, but I feel like it's going to be a lot of Gibbs. And if this game gets out of control like the Lions can do to people, I don't know why they put Montgomery up through the middle anyhow. Maybe on some short yard stuff. I just can't see it. But Louvu, I think he's on again this week. And, he's good for a sack every now and again too. Like, he does get there. He's had, 6, 7 sacks this year? He's had a big year. Pick number 3, we're going to look at Baltimore at Buffalo. What an interesting game this is. And I feel like the usual suspects are getting a lot of love this week. Obviously, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, and who else? And that's where I kind of get to that point because we all kind of got stung by the Baltimore receivers last week. We all kind of got stung by Buffalo's receivers most weeks, like who had Curtis Samuel going over 10 yards. Like, doesn't really have it. He goes for a 50-yard touchdown. That never happens for us, right? So I'm going to look at a couple outside props that I feel might be of worth note. I like Justice Hill this week, higher than 19.5 receiving yards. And I know, again, we're going back to the IDP stuff. Damar Hamlin, higher than 5.5 combined tackles. I'm going to get to that in a minute. Look, there's 2 ways this could go for Justice Hill, and I kind of like it. I think this is, it's a double positive for him. The Ravens can use Hill to spell Derrick Henry. We've seen that, right? Which is standard practice. Where he's, this year in the receiving game, he set a career high, 51, 42, 383. In the receiving game, he's good for 25 yards per game on average. So his yards per game averages, we got a nice little buffer there on what Vegas is giving us, and that's a nice thing. Or if this goes the wrong way for the Baltimore Ravens against the Bills, Hill is going to figure in well enough if the plan for the Ravens doesn't shape the way they want it to. Which to that point, the Bills have given up the second most targets and the most receiving yards to the running back position at 44 yards per game on average. It's worth a look. Like, if this is something that they can do and they can get him in for a nice special play here or there, we've seen Justice Hill break off a big play every other game of the week. But if this is not going according to plan for the Ravens, I don't think the screen game for Derrick Henry is something that they're going to just all of a sudden go to. I feel like it's going to be a lot of Justice Hill, 2 minutes drill. I feel like that's going to be the thing that we're going to see. And I feel like 19.5 for Justice Hill, it's not the worst way to look. Adversely with that run game, if you look at that three-headed monster of Hill and, you can throw Keaton Mitchell there. No Keaton Hill disrespect. Mark Andrews gets a carry here or there, whatever. But you look at Jackson, Henry, and Hill in that regard. I like Damar Hamlin to be in the thick of the action. We've got to talk about like Bills linebackers. Okay, Matt Milano here or there. Doreen Williams, okay, fine. Like, they're fine. Getting the action with the Ravens, you look at their tight ends more than most. Hamlin's at strong safety. He's going to see a lot of work in the box as well. So not only is he going to see the guys that they figure in most, like you look at Isaiah Likely, you look at Mark Andrews, and now you're talking about a guy that spends most of his time in the box with a game that is circumvented around the run. This is great for Damar Hamlin. It's great for this matchup. I feel like that is as well. So, Jackson, Henry, Tamlin with Hill mixing in against run-heavy teams, against the Rams. They played Kyron Williams, 12 combined tackles. He gets a lot of work in that regard. I can see the same thing playing out here. So I kind of like Damar Hamlin at 5.5. I think that's a cheeky way of getting some, cheap stats in there. He's going to get there with combined and solo. I think that's not the worst thing for us this week. Pick number 4, we're going to go with the low-hanging fruit, Saquon Barkley, because he's a low-hanging guy. Fuck the Eagles. Either way, Saquon Barkley, longest rush, we're going to go over 18.5, and we're going to go higher than half a touchdown. That's what we're going to do. Last time they met, if we haven't spoken about this enough this week or seen enough of this week, he absolutely smashed the living piss out of the Rams last time he played them. He was in LA on the road, 255 yards on the ground, and 2 rushing touchdowns alone with his youngest rush. Over 18.5, I think he went for 70, 75 yards with his longest rush on the day, but he had a couple like 15, 20s in there as well. You're talking about him like just absolutely destroying teams. Like, he didn't get over the line for the touchdown last week. It's like really weird how they use him for touchdowns. It's like in and out. But I think that also is prescribed to how they've like been resting him the last quarter. So, we don't have that. I don't think you can get away with that against the Rams. They're going to stick around this week. But I feel like it's also the Rams. It's a different team where they played. Like, their year's been so all over the place with the injuries they've had. And I kind of feel like the Rams are going to stick about it. Stafford, I don't know why, but I shouldn't have to say this. He's going to surprise some people this week, which, again, if you were listening at the start of the show, really probably shouldn't, because he's played in the NFC North. He knows cold weather games. Philly's not going to be a shock to him. So, I can see this playing out the same way again in that regard for Saquon Barkley. I feel like he's going to get a lot of opportunities. 18.5 is the youngest rusher. He can do that every time he touches the ball. 18.5 is on the cards for Saquon Barkley, which is kind of wild. When you think about it, half a touchdown, I think he's going to get over there in that regard. That is going to do it for this week. Nice, easy 20-minute show, 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning. Or it's 10 o'clock, Saturday morning prop bet show. Why wouldn't we? We're going to wrap this up one last time, but we're going to talk about that again. Texans at Chiefs, Commanders at Detroit, Ravens at Bills, Rams at Eagles, Saturday and Sunday games. As always, YouTube, alert, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. Discord, it's free. GoingFor2 Live. Get all your questions answered over there. Tag your favorite analysts over there. It's not a hard thing to do. Very, very simple thing to go do. Underdog Fantasy, promo code GF2, 100% match your deposit up to 250 big ones. You know the drill. Go and do it. Get on board. Put some bets on. Let's have some fun this week. Pick number 1, we're going to get on Chris Jones, half a sack, over half a sack. Xavier Worthy over 4.5 receptions against the Texans. We're going to look at game number 2, Washington and Detroit. Frankie Louvu, higher than 6.5 combined tackles. Jaden Daniels, higher than 9.5 rush attempts. Game number 3, Ravens at Bills. Justice Hill, my mouth, no good. Justice Hill, higher than 19.5 receiving yards. Damar Hamlin, higher than 5.5 combined tackles. Pick number 4, Saquon Barkley, double-double. Saquon Barkley, longest rush, higher than 18.5 yards and higher than half a touchdown. I don't mind him at 111 rushing yards, which is crazy because I hate betting on props that big, but it is what it is. As always, I'm Dan at the B-League Says. You can find me wherever. You can ask me questions whenever. As always, safe bets, happy punts, cheers, and goodbye.